Great to see you.
Welcome, everybody. If everybody can grab a seat. Thank you. We'll start. Please join me in standing and saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. I see that we do have some members from the other boards in town. I don't know if anybody would like to say anything or any comments? Welcome. We also have Neil Shalansky, the labor union rep. Anything to report?
I'm going to pass it to Beth, who's been years of service at EHA as well, so she's going to provide the report.
Hi, I'm Ms. Sklar, and on behalf of EHEA, I'd like to thank you for putting this on the agenda, and I'd like to say that EHEA fully supports Mr. Smith's and the Board of Ed's budget. Thank you.
Okay. And now we will have an update from the principals and the director of education.
Thank you. So today at Memorial School, we continued one of our big initiatives this year, our math workshop implementation. We were fortunate enough to benefit from the technical assistance of Jessica Kazigian, who is a specialist in the area of math workshop implementation, and she worked side by side with our own K-5 math and science specialist, Andrea Winarski. It's a full week that we're working with the teams at this really critical mid-year point of implementation to make sure that the teachers are feeling confident in the math workshop method and have an opportunity to develop their skills further. So it's been really positive, and we're looking forward to that rolling out throughout the week. We also, across all of the buildings, continue to work towards our district goals. I told you at our last meeting we were in the midst of mid-year assessments. One of our major goals this year, goal 3, is around how we analyze our student performance data, and so that process has been ongoing. And whether it was at Center School last week where we had significant data chats, or this coming week at the middle school, our teachers are reviewing that information with administration and our instructional specialists to plan for the second half of the school year. Speaking of planning, our Professional Development and Evaluation Committee, or PDEC, will be meeting on Thursday to look forward to our February and March professional learning sessions. And this is a really collaborative process between administration and the teachers to make sure that the sessions that are planned are meaningful and beneficial and really help to further our shared goals. A major initiative for us, as we've talked about, I know Memorial updated you at our last meeting, is our NIAC accreditation process for the preschool. We continue to tweak and finalize all of the materials that need to be prepared for that accreditation process. It's very involved. I want to give special recognition to the Memorial administrative team, as well as the preschool team, some of whom are here tonight, for their work in that process. It's a very rigorous standard, and we're excited to see that process come to completion this year. And finally, I'll be sharing a little bit later in our presentation about our goals around curriculum development this year, and we're in the process of finalizing a curriculum institute we'll be running the second half of the year to really start to develop our internal capacity and a shared practice for the district, so we're really excited about that. Okay. Schools?
High school. So next Thursday, we have a really important night. It's our 8th grade parent night. It's hard to believe that we're already talking about the 2021 school year. So we'll be 8th grade parents. We'll be meeting with me and the counseling staff and some teachers to talk about what they can expect at the high school next year. And then that Friday, the 8th grade the students are coming up here for a tour of the school while classes are going on to really see what's going on and talk about scheduling as we begin to move forward. The one thing I'm really, really excited about with Mr. Smith and Mr. Warner, who couldn't be here tonight, he had some foot surgery over the weekend. He'll be back very soon, fingers crossed. We've been working really hard with Graham High School to establish a partnership to include our students in the manufacturing pipeline. Mr. Smith has reached out to the superintendent at RAM to kind of finalize all that. But the goal is that our students will be able to take classes here in the afternoon, go over to RAM to finish the program they have, and then be able to just take the required coursework for advanced manufacturing, which will get them into the Eastern Connecticut Workforce Initiative Board for certification, which is a goal that I know we've had for a while. So we're really excited about that. And I didn't steal any of that for this evening.
All right, for the middle school, we're in the process with PTO and the prevention partnership of setting up a volleyball tournament. There'll be more information to come in March. Also in preparation for the play, The Little Mermaid, the high school and middle school students. I think they have over 80 actors and participants in that, so it's very exciting. Hosted a roundtable last week, principals roundtable for the Learn Resc, and it was just a very nice opportunity for us to be able to highlight some of the things that are going on in the building. Sometimes you forget, you get stuck in the day-to-day. Nice to just be able to brag a little bit. And the other principal was very impressed with the things that we were doing. Report cards go out Friday, so parents be aware. PBIS Assembly is Friday. Hope Church, we've had a nice partnership with them over the past 3 years. They requested to utilize the building for an event called Night to Shine, which is a prom for individuals with special needs and other disabilities. So really just a great opportunity for us to partner with our community members. 5th grade and 8th grade visits are this Friday, February 7th. 5th grade will be visiting the middle school and the 8th graders will be visiting the high school. And last but not least, kudos to the math department. They took the algebra midterm and everybody, well not the teachers didn't take the midterm. All the students passed, and I think it was very much due to the fact that they had worked with them so diligently throughout the month of January. Numerous after-school opportunities, before-school opportunities, so very proud of them.
All right, Center School, this Thursday the 30th, we celebrate halftime at Center School, just in time to combine Super Bowl themed Spirit Day with the official halfway mark of the school year. On Tuesday the 4th, we have author Jessie Janowitz set to visit Center School, celebrating her latest release titled The Donut King. Center is offering students a chance to have donuts and a sit-down with the author. The Invention Convention is next Wednesday on the 5th. Judging takes place after school, and public viewing begins at 5:30 p.m. I'd like to thank East Hampton Rotary as well as Parks and Rec for the continued partnership and support. And next Friday, we welcome parents of 4th grade band members at 2 o'clock to Center School for the 4th grade band demo. We've created a video of the first lesson of each group and then give students an opportunity to play in front of family and guests to showcase just how far they've come.
One of Memorial's most special traditions actually happens on a day off for most of us, but it's a day on for Mr. Frost's class and Mrs. Hayden's class, who donated their time and went and shared their kindness and compassion by giving back to the East Hampton Food Bank on Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
And Mr. Sullivan just mentioned that Jess Janowitz will be at Center School. She's going to start also at Memorial. So our 3rd graders have been following the book on tour and doing some work around that. So they will get to enjoy that on Tuesday. And our 2nd graders will be visited by author Jason Tharp on Friday the 7th. Next Wednesday is World Read Aloud Day, which is really focuses on literacy as a fundamental human right that belongs to everyone. So it's a global event that now includes millions. And we will invite kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, and 1st grade classes to mystery read in each other's classrooms as part of World Read Aloud. Center School is going to celebrate Midway on the 90th day, and Memorial will be all in for the 100th day, hitting that base 10 benchmark in an elementary school. There's nothing like it. There will be 100-year-old children, lots of places. Mrs. Gibson's class does 101 Dalmatians. There will be a lot of black and white spots. It's really quite fun. Keeping with the literacy theme, after our last board meeting, we hosted at Memorial in the evening our first annual, we hope, family literacy event. Our literacy team did a phenomenal job orchestrating a series of special events that families went through. There were read-alouds, there were take literacy centers, and there was bingo for books. I think we had more than 20 staff members stay and host those events for 100 guests.
250.
Mrs. Winarski may have been in a snowflake costume while she was reading. So we're all about literacy at Memorial Windsor Health.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Next, we do have an audience of citizens where comments are welcome. We will also, just so you know, after the principal's presentation later on in the program, we'll also be welcoming comments and questions, so you can feel free to comment now or later. So I'll open it up to anyone who'd like to comment. Wait till anyone? No? Okay. Okay. So, now we must approve the consent agenda. If somebody would like to make a motion. Second. Any discussion?
I have a question. On the minutes of December 9th, 8.4. So this is the meeting on December 9th. The notation is that Mr. Smith noted that there will be a capital meeting on Wednesday, November 27th at 10 a.m. I'm not sure how that's possible.
That's the one that was canceled.
Right, but
Yeah.
how, if there's a language, if you,
Oh, yeah.
you're saying on December 9th that there will be one on the 27th? Something's off there.
I think I noted that there was supposed to be a capital
Okay,
meeting.
there we
I
go.
think we can adjust that.
Yeah, great, thank you.
And for capital members, our next meeting is the 5th.
Correct.
Rosemary, you'll just change that sentence there.
Anything else? Okay. Can we get that? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Okay, and now we have usually the fun part.
Yes, so as you may be aware, this year we are honoring visual arts students from all of our schools. In the month of December, we recognized 2 students from Memorial School, and this month we are recognizing 2 students from the Center School. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Sullivan and our art teacher. I think Mrs. Fawcett is here as well to introduce you to our 2 students.
Before Ms. Fawcett says a few words about our 2 artists, I'd like to invite 5th grader Minith down and 4th grader Juliana. If you want to bring any of your guests down or just explain to the audience who you brought with us today, that'd be great. Minith, why don't we start?
Yeah, come right
Yeah,
down.
come on down.
Don't be shy. We wanted to get you on the camera. Stand right next to Mr.
Juliana,
Sullivan.
feel free.
And Minith, if you would introduce your family members who are here
So who's
tonight?
with you today?
My dad, Sharon, and my mom, Sajani, and my 2 brothers, Varun and Chana.
Thank you very much for
Thank
joining
you.
us tonight.
And Juliana?
My mom, my dad, and my sister.
All right.
Thank you for joining us. Parents, don't be shy if you want to come down and take pictures. You don't have to do it from the back. Come right down.
All right, well, I had the pleasure of, and difficulty of just finding 2 most distinguishing students. We have a lot of involvement. So I did, it was hard, but I'm going to read my, what I wrote about each student. Juliana. Juliana is a conscientious learner and a dedicated art student. She consistently works to her best ability through each stage of our art minutes. A fine example is her fire safety poster. Pleasing color choices. Immediately obvious is the skill and effort that she applied to the designing and creating the imagery. The pleasing color choices, shapes, and lines are evident. A deeper look reveals the thoughtfulness in the composition and delivery of two engaging and understandable messages that will serve to support fire safety in our community. And I was just struck that she was able to simply and very clearly support an indoor and an outdoor fire safety message. Did really well. Very nice. And Minith, I've been watching him grow from 4th grade, 5th grade, really astounding. With each art unit, Minith makes the most of his strong aptitude towards the mastery of skills, concepts, and craftsmanship. He's attentive to demonstrations, works out challenges, and takes no shortcuts as he works towards his artistic goals. Minith stands out as an exemplary art student, particularly because of his disposition towards leading other students to learn and explore their own potential. He is patient and instructive while supporting his peers through their own problem-solving strategies in the art room. I want to revisit my first sentence about working towards a mastery of skills. I had given Minith's class one lesson in 1-point perspective drawing. It was very good practice in class. Went home and created this on his own. And I said, did you have a book? Did you look on YouTube? No, I remember what we did in class, and I wanted to practice it some more. So that was all from our one lesson. He really took that and went with it. Nice job.
Any family members? Get some pictures.
I'll keep our artwork.
No, get. Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
And if you could look over here for one moment. And then, thank you.
Thank you all very much and congratulations. We have one more celebration before we move on with the agenda. Our teacher, music teacher from the middle school, Beth Sklar, is retiring. It's kind of an odd date. February 5th is her last day in the district. So she's going to be riding off into the musical sunset. She finished a couple weeks ago with just a great concert in our high school auditorium. So Beth, if you would come down. Jason Lehman, principal, would like to say a few words. He's going to start with year one, concert one, and go to
We go to
45
concert
minute slideshow.
522.
Beth, on behalf of the middle school and East Hampton Public Schools, I really just want to say how much we recognize and appreciate your service. 19 years in East Hampton, 30 years in public education. Your dedication and passion for your craft, but also for your students is remarkable. And we really will miss you. We're happy that you are more than happy to take our new teacher under your mentorship for a few days, and it's really impressive that you're going to the 5th and not just taking off after the Super Bowl on the 3rd.
I'll drag myself.
But sincerely, I just wanted to say thank you for all of us. We really have just enjoyed
the experience of chorus and music and what you've provided for our children.
I appreciate the support of the board over the years and having a great career in East Hampton, wonderful students, and I have to say, of all the years I've taught, the Kindness Counts, the whole movement has really made a huge difference. The students are so kind and they work so hard and they're so nice to one another. It just makes a nice classroom community and I really enjoyed it. It's been a privilege, so thank you.
Congratulations. Oh, could we do a little picture if you don't mind? Oh, right over here. That's blue background. Yes, yeah, right in the middle, I'll be on the end.
Oh, the plans. Oh, it's already.
Yeah, there we go.
We could all take a step back there, Jim.
How's that? Good?
Perfect.
I don't throw all this here.
Okay, one more, maybe. Thank you.
And now we have one of our student Board of Ed reps.
So as of school activities, the students just finished a week of midterms, and with the third quarter starting, everyone's looking forward to a fresh start in the second semester. National Honor Society is planning Mr. Bellringer, which is scheduled for the end of February. And the first Capstone Expo was a success. The students put a lot of time and effort into their projects. They were very interesting, and it was really nice to see the different ideas that the students had for their projects and the freedom they had to explore those ideas. And for winter athletics, girls basketball continues their successful season with a record of 10-1. And boys basketball is also having a successful season with a record of 7-3. Indoor track competed in meet this past weekend. The boys 4x4 team won, and the girls sprint medley relay team did well. Individual athletes continue to place in top spots. Wrestler Dylan Levesky, I hope I pronounced that right, recently placed third in the Coulter Abbey Mid-Season Classic at Mercy. And for the cheer team, they had an expedition last Thursday, and to showcase their routine to parents and visitors. And they have a competition that's coming up soon.
Thank you. And other committees, personnel? Did we?
Personnel has not met.
met, right? Okay. And then policy and curriculum?
We had a meeting prior to this one, going over the 9,000 series, the bylaws of the board, and there were some first reads later on in the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Finance, transportation, building and grounds. Not met since the last meeting. And anything with Martin?
Not since the last meeting. The next is February 13th.
High School Building Committee is scheduling a meeting. They anticipate that it will be their last meeting. They will vote to hand over the building to the Board of Education.
All right. And now superintendent's report / budget presentation.
So for people in the audience tonight, what we're going to do is I'm going to ask the principals to each take a brief moment, very brief moment, to explain some of the things in the budget book. You're welcome to follow through the budget book again. Karen also has an updated book here, so please help yourself to copies down here. She also has a small handout that's stapled. The way we're going to proceed is the principals, and I know we have some leaders here who will go through each of the green items. Boards, if you have a question on any of the green items, ask it while the principal who is addressing it is up here. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next one. After that, I'm going to ask Rodney to be available to answer any special education questions. Karen's going to point out some highlights from her budget book. Mary is also going to address curriculum. questions that you have, and then we'll have public comment from the audience. So if you are speaking, principals or any of our team leaders or our reading math coordinator, anybody that's speaking, if you would come down front, because we're just going to go right from slide to slide, and we'll keep the process moving right along. If you do need a copy of our budget presentation or Karen's book, please don't hesitate to come down and grab one now. So each of these items, as if you were here last week or if you've read my handout, each of these items, there are detail on the pages. The slides right now just have the general item, but I thought I would give each principal a time to go through each of their requests. I am keeping the clicker. If we moved on to the next slide, I just start talking over the person who is speaking.
Good. So first up, and I will, brevity is usually my motto. So for the high school, one of our green items is the robotics platform and the robotics course / robotics club. As I mentioned a few moments ago, all of this kind of dovetails into our opportunity to work with RAMP to get into the pipeline for our students to have the advanced manufacturing certificate. Additionally, when you look at the budget book, you can see that what we're currently using, and this is no offense to my learned colleagues at the elementary level, we're really using elementary level robotics equipment for a high school class, and any robotics team that competes in these statewide competitions is using the VEX platform, which requires these robots to do some very, very advanced things.
Any questions for Eric on that particular item? Mr. Verner?
So again, as I mentioned in the previous slide, the same equipment would not only be used in the classroom, but also be used to establish a competitive robotics team. These teams compete statewide, and again, it's what we're expecting our students to do, to build, to think creatively, to work collaboratively and work actively to, again, design robots. And the careers that we're talking about for our students going forward aren't going to be for them to be doing it, but to be building robots to complete these tasks.
So in the middle school, we do have a robotics unit that they teach in the applied math and sciences class. We already have the teacher in place. The infrastructure's there, the building, the actual room is great for it. We'd be welcome to have you come by sometime and check it out. But having an after-school club is something that I feel like is really essential for us. We have after-school athletics, we have drama, we have our mountain bike club. We have a lot of variety, but we don't really have anything in this vein for students that really are into either the sciences, the technology, and the engineering piece, and I think it's something that would be critical for our students.
So manipulatives are physical objects that are used as teaching tools to engage students in the hands-on learning of math. They can be used to introduce, practice, or remediate a concept. Students learn math in different ways, but the progress of learning follows a similar trajectory of concrete, which is using hands-on manipulatives to understand or explain thinking, representational or pictorial, where students are able to draw models to represent their thinking, and abstract, where students are able to use numerals and operational symbols. Examples of math manipulatives include unifix cubes, place value blocks, dual-sided chips, fraction bars, and pattern blocks. The use of hands-on manipulatives helps students support and grow their math thinking. We are looking to purchase manipulatives to support instruction to go along with our Tier 1 resource, which is Go Math.
Just so you know, on page 6, there's some details about the particular manipulatives that we're looking to purchase. This picture does not necessarily reflect that. And once again, both of these items are coming through Title IV grant funding.
Memorial currently services 63 students in the kindergarten through grade 3, part of our formal math intervention program. Students meet during the FAST, which is focused academic support time, 4 days a week for 25 minutes. The purpose of intervention support is to build math confidence and close learning gaps in order for students to be successful with grade level content. In order to continue to build our intervention programming and provide differentiated, targeted instruction, we are requesting more math intervention programs to support the need of our young learners. Do the Math is a comprehensive math program that helps students develop the skills they need to compute with accuracy and efficiency and strengthens students' abilities to make sense of concepts, solve problems, reason, and use appropriate tools. Each skill-specific kit comes with a scripted teacher manual, student workbooks, printable resources and progress monitoring, manipulatives to support learning, games, and demonstration materials. We are currently limited with the quantity and variety of scientifically research-based interventions. We are looking to expand the variety of resources in our program so all students can be successful in math. Oh, that is me again. Okay, all right. Okay. Reflex Math is an online fact fluency program used in grades 2 through 5. The program is adaptive and individualized support as students as they master addition, subtraction, and multiplication division. Reflex Math is a combination of lessons and games that students can complete at school and at home. Educators and parents love this tool as it provides instant reporting to monitor progress and celebrate success. Students love the program because it is engaging, fun, and builds their confidence through achievements and celebrations.
Board members, any question about any of the math items?
All right. Oh, no.
I'm skipping over that. Okay, go ahead, I'll let you address this.
I mean, basically, just best part of the presentation. No, this is Curiosity Ignited, really, at Center School. I mean, if you want to see all the profile of the graduate dispositions on display in one room, this is it. So thank you to the PTO and Ms. Clark for scraping together some grant funds to make this possible. I saw a powerful statement in the Smithsonian Learning Center. It was STEM literacy is the new demand in a post-industrial society. So we always talk about opening doors. We need to continue to open the door to these experiences.
And once again, I just want to highlight the picture on the right because I'm so impressed that our center school students would have access to, an elementary level circuit board. But we don't have enough materials so that this can just be in the back of the classroom. The kids have to be scheduled to go in here to work on this rather than just having some free time and say, you know what, I'm going to go grab the circuit board. So it should not be that difficult to access these materials.
So our next item at the high school would be the offering of an online world language in Chinese or Mandarin Chinese. And unfortunately, my student that was here to help advocate for the program had to go for music rehearsal. So I want to thank Mr. Gibson for being here tonight. But ideally, we'd be able to offer through an online platform, either through proximity learning or virtual high school, any of our students in the high school the opportunity to take a Mandarin 1 course. And then as we build our program, work their way up through Mandarin 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, as the world that we live in is shrinking, it's another opportunity. Currently, we offer Spanish and French. And I would like the opportunity to have more students take more world languages in our school.
If I could just
go ahead.
Sorry, yes. How many students have expressed an interest?
Right now, 3 have expressed an interest, and this is a per-seat basis, so it's not a full-time teacher that you would need. Right. And it goes in tiers, so like 3 to 5 is a certain cost, and then 6 to 10 is another cost. And once you get above 10, then you have more flexibility of when you can offer the class. I have a lot of experience in my previous district. We offered proximity learning, and we had, by the time I left last school year, we had 60 students going from the 3 different levels of Mandarin, and they were working on bringing Mandarin 4 in for next school year.
So some may say, we look back at our world language offering and that we lost that position last year. Well, it doesn't seem like a big deal. It's one position. It is a multifaceted tragedy at the middle school. I'm not embellishing. Like it's shared with you, I'll start with the least student-centered reason all the way to the most student-centered reason. First, because of the shift and having more students not have the opportunity to take these classes, we have more students in study halls during the day, which means we have a need for teachers to be able to cover those study halls, which means teachers cannot meet during the day to have either team time, or to have their department time to work with their peers. That means all of these meetings had to get pushed to after the school day. So almost every day of the week, teachers are either on bus duty or have an afternoon meeting, like a team meeting. That takes that time away that they could have met with one of their peers to co-plan and to collaborate and be able to make sure that they're at the proper place in the curriculum and they're working together to put forth the best quality lessons and assignments for their students. Next, we are losing an opportunity for our high school students when they get there to be able to take AP classes in world language. That's really unfortunate if we're not going to be setting these kids up for that opportunity in 6th grade to have that exposure. Lastly, and I've said this before, it's 2.4 million collective minutes of study hall right now. It's extremely difficult for our students to manage, as well as our staff, to be able to accommodate and provide enough additional outlets and resources and activities for our students to be able to do something during that time when it truly is kind of an independent time. So I'm really hopeful that we can have this position put back into the budget. Thank you.
Again, one more question. Sorry. I'm just reading through this just so I understand. So the exposure in grade 6 will be a half year, full year?
Half year exposure.
Okay.
And
for both French and
correct.
Spanish.
And then at the end of the year, close to the end of the year when we're planning scheduling, we'll be looking to have those students choose which class they want to take in the following year.
Thank you.
Instead of the study halls, can the teacher be teaching something versus just having a study hall?
Well, so contractually, you have so many teaching periods, you have so many duties throughout the course of the day.
So it'll be a contractual breach for them to teach something.
I mean, many of them do work with the students and do things like that, but to be able to have an additional class, yes.
If this position is reinstated, so we still have rising 6th graders who are going to be in 7th grade who have not had that exposure, how are we going to handle that?
I'm glad you brought that up. It went out of my update tonight. So what we're going to be doing for this year, because it is kind of a tough situation, with the hopes that the budget will move forward and that position will be in there, we're going to have our current 6th graders have a presentation from both the Spanish and the French teacher, just to give them a taste of what next year could look like, and then we're going to have them choose for their 7th grade year so that they are fully immersed in that course and they're just basically missing the exposure course.
Okay.
Now, we could choose to make 7th grade an exposure thing, but ideally, and you've heard me explain, you want to create that 7th and 8th grade year as a solid foundation in Spanish 1 or French 1. Because to reach AP, they really need to be immersed in French 2 or Spanish 2 as freshmen. AP is considered the 5th year of a world language.
All right, restoring a 4th grade classroom teacher. So this is not a request based on comfort. So obviously parents, students, teachers would all like smaller class sizes. We want as a district to move away from doing things the way that they've always been traditionally done and meet the needs of our learners. This is a decision that's based on data. So by adding that extra section of 4th grade, we are meeting the most basic educational needs of this specific group based on the needs that we know that they have. So it'd be irresponsible not to keep that same class structure moving through with this particular population to make sure that we are supporting their needs and knowing exactly what type of adult support is needed for the students to continue their success.
So Foundations is an amazing, systematic, explicit phonics program that we implemented last year in grade 1 at Memorial School and this year in kindergarten at Memorial School. And we have several of our kindergarten and 1st grade teachers here who are all smiling, and when you look at them and talk about Foundations, as it really is a systematic approach. So it helps them teach phonics and it helps students learn phonics. And it's really just learning the basics of reading that's going to help them further their education and as far as reading, learning to read and reading to learn later on. So it's hands-on. Kids can use it in many different ways. They have tiles to make words. They tap out sounds, so they're hearing sounds, they're writing sounds, and it's just very engaging. On the left real quick, you see a student having tiles, so they're saying like cat, or, you know, what sound do you hear when you say k? He's able to see the C and then match it to the C, and that's a kindergarten student. And the right side is also a kindergarten class, learning their sight words. So it has sight words, phonics, fluency, all built in and comprehension. It's pretty amazing to see our youngest learners really loving it and really holding on to those strategies. And East Hampton, like many districts, are implementing more phonics-based because there's so much research and new brain research that really supports phonics instruction early on. So I'm very grateful that East Hampton is choosing, to really invest in our youngest learners, K-1 and now moving K-3.
And if I could just add on to Mrs. Warner's brief presentation there, I've been able to see them extend this and transfer these skills into all different times during the day. This systematic approach is great to watch in action, but what's even better is to see them take the skills that they're learning and apply them across contexts.
Any questions?
So typically when you ask someone to think about a spelling program, they think about word lists and memorization. And the Spelling Connections program that we're using in grades 4 and 5 is anything but typical spelling and memorization. It's backed from the research of Dr. Richard Gentry, and it's designed to teach patterns and vocabulary to students based on their needs. So each week, teachers are presented with a flexible 3 to 5 day plan on how to best meet their needs, the students' needs. Teachers use a pre-test for students to assess those needs, and then kids work on activities like word building activities, sorting, there's vocabulary activities throughout the week. The other thing about Spelling Connections is that throughout the course of its use, over the 30 some odd weeks of the program, every 6 weeks, kids are given a review lesson so that we can assess the transfer of the skills that they're using. It's a really engaging program, and I think if you ask kids, they would tell you that they love having a workbook. Even though we have lots of digital tools available in this, kids do love the use of the workbook. And one of the nicest things about Spelling Connections is that it does connect to all our standards, and it supports the reading, the writing, the thinking, the listening and speaking skills in language arts.
As we look at foundations, talking about our approach to literacy instruction with our primary learners, our very beginning readers, thinking about our intermediate learners at center school and their work with academic vocabulary, and deepening their ability to approach novel information and make sense of it. We really look to provide a comprehensive literacy package for our learners, that we're targeting every aspect of that skill development because it's so complex, and because we know that one of the things that the feedback from the post-secondary world is that we want to make sure that students have rich content knowledge and the ability to read complex texts. And that starts with our decisions in kindergarten. That's not something our students are going to reach without very thoughtful planning. And so you see that through foundations, through Spelling Connections, and finally this year we've added a product we're really excited about called Muzella. This is available for students in grades 2 through 8. It is a rich digital library. It has the ability to differentiate and personalize readings so that students can be working on the same topic, but reading at a level that they can practice independent reading, which is really critical in developing lifelong readers who are constantly growing. They need to be able to access content knowledge and text, work with it, develop their thinking, and then apply that to increasingly challenging texts. Muzella allows teachers flexibility and efficiency in instruction that I think is really unprecedented because they can use the data we have on students to target those readings on such a range of content. So if I'm a 4th grade teacher and I'm teaching every content area, I have that flexibility. If I'm an 8th grade social studies teacher, I have that flexibility. I want to recognize Joey Bauer, our K literacy coordinator, who was able to negotiate a very cost-effective pilot for us this year. It was a real hat trick, and we'd like to make this a permanent resource for our teachers. I was recently at the middle school, and one of the teachers there said, "This is the best use of curricular funds I've seen since I've worked in East Hampton. This is so exciting." So I think this is a really great opportunity for us to build that rich content knowledge and make sure that students have that targeted instruction that we've been discussing. Newsela is completely digital. The resources are continuously vetted and updated, so we know that as opposed to a textbook that we purchase once and we have to worry about the content becoming out of date, that's not a concern. Newsela is constantly being refreshed and providing new resources for our learners.
Is this a resource that is going to be able to be accessed at home also?
Yes.
So how much flexibility does students doing work at home, do they have to access material that might be beyond what they're normally working on? So it's like a teacher saying, okay, I want to focus on this area for my 5th grade class, but there's a handful of students in that 5th grade class that are making great progress and they want to push themselves further. Do they have the flexibility to do that on their own, or do they have to work through the teacher to access that?
So it does have research capabilities, and then the tool has assessments periodically built in to match the text to the reader. So ideally we want to make sure that the student is accessing text that they can manage independently.
Right.
But they do have access to a broad library.
So next up from the high school are the purchase of 2 sets of textbooks for our AP courses, AP Biology and AP United States History. For the U.S. History one I can speak to first. The replacement cycle a couple of years ago, the College Board revamped the AP curriculum, and this textbook that we're currently using in the various editions does not align itself with the curriculum. Additionally, periodically, schools are audited for their AP courses and are required to submit their syllabus as well as the textbook they're using, and every few years they require you to have an updated edition of the textbook, and we are currently on our way to being out of compliance with what the College Board requests for our students. Yes, sir.
On the AP history book, when does the history start?
AP U.S. History starts from the very beginning and goes, it literally is the entire scope and sequence of United States history. So back to
starting after the Civil War.
Starts at Jamestown back in the 1600s and goes until, and obviously as we know, it continually adds all the time. Absolutely.
And we do have a perusal copy on.
We'll talk about that.
The perusal copy for AP Bio came, if you'd like to read that one as well, Jim, if you're.
I love history.
Now, we have to return them in a month, so you only have a month to get through all of U.S. history and all biology.
Where do I get it from? We're not, biology I'll pass on for now.
Okay. As soon as it comes in, we'll give you a call.
Not that I don't like biology, but I like history.
Yeah. And what I'm suggesting is for all of our textbooks that the board keep them in central office for 1 month, so anybody from the public could peruse any textbook that we're purchasing.
So I'd have to say, of all the items that we've discussed tonight, bang for your buck, this is probably the biggest item. For roughly $5,000, you're going to ensure that our East Hampton Middle School students have the opportunity to participate in no-cut sports. Right now, we have roughly a third of the school participating in these 2 no-cut sports when they're fully funded. It was really difficult this year, especially for cheerleading, that we did have to cut, and there were several students that participated last year, truly enjoyed it, found a nice home for themselves, found friends, and were unable to all participate again this year. So we're really looking for, like I said, for about $5,000 we can fund to have about a third of our students participating in athletics and finding an opportunity for them to do something outside of the school day. Any questions? Thank you.
Mary, would you address this with the Middlesex Consortium discussion?
Sure. So I know Paul talked to you a bit about this during our last board meeting. Just today I was at a Middlesex Consortium meeting of curriculum directors from across our region who are looking at how they can bring mental health first aid into their districts, and we were featuring what we're doing here in East Hampton in partnering with Hartford Hospital to ensure that our staff members can take advantage of this mental health proactive training at no cost, and we're really looking to extend this. In June, we've had lots of staff take advantage of this training on their own time to give up their weekends away from their family and opportunity to take care of themselves to attend this, and then we'll be offering sessions in June as well where teachers can come in and participate. And the other districts were asking, can we send our teachers to East Hampton? Because they're so eager to see this offered in their community. And I said, our teachers have been signing up at such a rate that I can't guarantee we'll have spots left, but we're going to see if we can give that opportunity not only to our teachers here, but working with Harvard will have them come in as well.
Thank you, Mary. In the budget handout that you received, there were several pages where we addressed the cost savings that we're experiencing as a result of some of our in-district programming. And Ron is prepared to answer any questions that you might have on any of those. I know I spent a little bit of time with this last 2 weeks ago. I wasn't sure if there were any specific questions that you had regarding any of the slides. Mr. Mosier, you are off the hook. What I asked Mary to explain to you was I used the term throughout this document of us redistributing curriculum funds. There was some concern about what we were going to do with curriculum writing, as one of the NEASC recommendations was to make sure that the high school curriculum was up to date. But as you know, we are trying to make sure that all 4 schools that curriculum from all 4 schools are up to date. So Mary, if you would just explain how the curriculum writing process for this year and what we anticipate for next year.
So unfortunately in past years, budget dollars have been limited in the area of curriculum writing in recent years in East Hampton. This year we do have a small pool of funds that will be applying to district capacity building. So we're facilitating a training using our professional learning days that are already built into the calendar. So very limited cost effect there to ensure that all of our teacher leaders throughout the district have access to the same information about our expectations around curriculum writing. Curriculum writing is a very deliberate process. It's a very creative process, but it is definitely a deliberate process where we look at the standards to which we must teach. We consider the assessment demands, the challenge level for our students. We consider a universal design so that all learners can access the content and skills that we'll be assessing. So it's definitely something where we want to have consistent expectations and ensure that all teachers who are asked to participate in the process have the same information. So that training will roll out February, March, and April of this year. And we'll be able to start very small steps in the area of curriculum this summer, offering some teachers curriculum writing time. Next year, the budget currently includes some funds for curriculum writing. And ideally, what we would continue to do is utilize times within the teacher workday where teachers authentically collaborate around curriculum. For example, our PLC structure at the high school, where teachers can sit together, discuss the course demands, and contribute to the curriculum. But at the same time, the day is very busy and fast-paced, fast-moving for teachers, and curriculum design and written curriculum is a process, as I said, that is deliberate and requires a certain level of concentration. So we'd like to supplement that with structured curriculum writing time in the summer, where teachers can have the opportunity to review, revise, and ultimately publish curriculum. So we'll start that training this year, have a limited ability to provide some of that summer work time where teachers can kind of set aside the demands of the day and their students and grading and meetings and everything else that's asked of them. And we would continue that process next year, weaving in teacher meeting time along with supplemented summer curriculum writing time.
Any questions, Mary Voltaire? Before I have the principals address an item that is not in the budget, either in the yellow or the red tier, Karen has produced an updated version of her budget documents and support. Also a stapled copy. We'll make sure people in the audience have one. Karen's going to highlight a few things for you out of this, and then I'm going to ask you over the next 2 weeks to review it, because your February 10th meeting is where we're going to really talk dollars and cents. So you're getting the overview tonight. The principals I'm giving them each one opportunity to talk about something that is not in the budget, And then on February 10th, you're going to have to come up with, really digging into Karen's financial support. Did anybody in the audience not get one of them? Would like to look on as Karen walks them through a few pages. Pass these out as well, okay?
Put a hand up, I'll pass it on.
Give them right to these ladies over there. Give them one of each. Yes. Take one of those, and one of these. You should have 3 items when you leave. You should have done it in green instead. Okay, Karen.
Okay, there's no difference in the financial account numbers in the more dressed up bound version. There's a couple of adjustments in the tables that I can point out if I need to, but there's no differences in the numbers. In the first few pages, I give you a macro perspective on the budget in terms of a 10-year history, percentage-wise, where our local spending operating budget is gone, and the dollars in just 5 major categories. So that you can see that salaries and benefits have been squeezing out the other expenditures in terms of building repairs, utilities, and every other item, including supplies and things like that, have been a decreasing part of the budget. Despite the changes in the overall macro view of it, when you compare our spending to the average Connecticut per pupil current expenditures, 6 and 7 years ago, we were just below average, 1.4%, 2.8%. But as time has gone on, until just last year, we have increasingly fallen below average spending, and this is on page 2 of the bound document, or the handout from last week. You can see there's a pretty dramatic decline, so that we're down to 14% below the average per pupil expenditures in the state of Connecticut. Then towards the end of the page 4, I summarize some of our funding sources outside of local taxpayer dollars, federal and state grants, the special education excess cost summary for 10 years, and our cafeteria program, including the federal and state grants that we've received there. At the bottom of page 4, I want to highlight a very unique programs that we have going on in East Hampton, where we're actually selling services to our neighboring communities. And I'd like to point out that from the most completed fiscal year 2019 to what we are projecting to earn this year is a 44% increase. This is a real game-changing business model that's different from most every other community in the state of Connecticut, where we're improving the programs that we're offering to East Hampton Public Schools without solely relying on our local taxpayers. Then the next 3 pages is a deeper dive from the macro into every object with the major assumptions that relate to that category. And I need to point out that there is no contingency built into this budget. And these assumptions are, many of them are just our estimates at this point. For example, medical insurance, we won't actually know our real premium cost until the beginning of May. I have a 10.5% increase in here. Of that, only 3 of the 10.5 is actually known. As most of you know, we're part of the state partnership program. There is an adjustment, as a county-wide adjustment to the rate, and we know that we will receive a 3% increase next year just for our county adjustment. And then the balance of the premium, which last year was 8%, and we won't know until May. Many of these other items are estimates too, but based on what we've known for our history. Then for the next pages 9 to 12, is sort of a tabular way of looking at our staffing levels, both in certified salaries, first overall, and then split between the elementary and secondary schools, and then the non-certified positions. With finally on page 12, just an overview of where we stand in the status of all negotiations. There are 3 major groups that are subject to negotiation this spring: the paraeducators, the administrative assistants, and custodian cafeteria groups. Otherwise, the general wage increases and the whole packages are all complete for next year. Pages 13 to 32 is then a detailed account level analysis of every single salary line with a concise description of the history of these accounts and the number of people in every single one of our accounts. There's no really further detail that would be available. On pages 33 to 35 is just the benefit highlights. Beginning on page 33 is the number of folks that are enrolled in our medical insurance, and that has stayed pretty much the same. Currently, we have 215 people enrolled in our medical insurance, and in 2016-2017, there were 214 people enrolled in our medical benefits. At the bottom of that page, you can see we've had a steady overall increase by that employees must contribute towards the cost of their medical insurance. On the following page is another highlight that has been a leadership role of our negotiating teams to reduce the opportunity for folks to enroll in family coverage without buying up completely from a single cost. So you can see we've driven down the percentage of family coverage in paraeducators and the interventionist groups, which are 2 of the main groups that only have single coverage without a full pay for family coverage. So that there's a 35% reduction in percentage of interventionists that are covered under family insurance. So on a per hire basis, we save almost $15,000 just in family health insurance for either one of these groups, and that doesn't count medical insurance. That's just their, that doesn't count dental insurance. That's just medical insurance. And the same thing holds true for dental, that we require them to pay the difference between a single and a family coverage. Also, we have all folks full-time that are not eligible for teacher retirement. All the other non-certified positions that are full-time have the opportunity to enroll, or not, they're required to enroll in either in a town pension plan, and we have completely closed off the potential to join an old, which might call an old-fashioned or traditional defined benefit plan, and employees may only join a defined contribution plan where the Board of Ed matches their contribution at a 5% of their salary. So you can see that in 2016 there were only 10 folks covered in the defined contribution plan, and we're up to 52 now in this current year. And then finally, the last part of this document from pages 37 to 67 is a detailed account by account now a listing with 2 years of history so that you can see the change from 2018 to 2019. We went through and we projected what this year would be at our best estimate at the beginning of January, and then followed by a column for the current year budget, account by account, with next year's budget request. And then the second document that provided is a small stapled document of 9 pages back to back, which thought might cover some of the areas that were not originally covered, and you might have some questions, including a explanation, high level of the certified salary change from last year to the next year's proposed budget. Then within classified salary, the big drivers of the change in that line, followed by an explanation of our tuition line, special ed and all other types of tuition, magnet schools, and then an overview of our repairs and building by building review of the repairs, and the same thing for our supply lines. And anytime if you have any questions and want more information, or we are not, if you have more questions, please let Paul or I know.
So at your February 10th meeting, we'll take time to go through both of these documents. If you have any questions now, Karen can answer them. But I'm urging you to do a little homework over the next 2 weeks so that you feel like these documents I mean, this is actually the bread and butter of where the budget is. You know, you've heard from the principals on a few of the new items, but if anything jumps out at you on any of these lines as far as increases or costs, or you just want an explanation of the line, Karen's put in some really meaningful graphs for you to get a sense of everything from the cost saving as a result of insurance changes and defined benefits. And I just hope you'll spend some time with it and then come back with questions for our next meeting. This is the sole agenda item. We're not having any other presentation. We're just going to get into the line items of the budget on February 10th. If you do have a question that you think requires some research, only because at the meeting after that you need to vote, email Karen and I the question ahead of time so we can do the research to get it to you for that meeting.
I just have because this is my first budget season, where are teachers' stipends located within, are they broken out by school, department?
We could get you a full list of those currently very easily.
Okay.
But in general, the stipends are, some of them are spread into buildings, so that I probably really have to get you a list. Others are within the district-wide accounts, because the superintendent director of curriculum open up these are done as a opportunity for folks to apply, and they just make a decision on who the folks are, so that we budget for them globally in the system-wide level, and then after they make their decisions, they are put to the correct spot once we know who they are.
We can email you a complete list tomorrow.
Thank you.
Rather than saying this page, this page, this page.
Yeah.
Well, that's easy to do.
Okay.
Before we open it up to questions for everybody, the principals are just going to take a minute to talk about a position that is not in the budget, that is sitting in red or yellow, since one of the questions to me from at least one board member was some of the positions that would reduce class sizes in the buildings.
So at Memorial, I'd like to advocate for smaller class sizes. To that end, I'd like the board to consider adding a kindergarten teacher to the superintendent's proposed budget in order for us to personalize instruction and to best help them develop socially and emotionally. Class size is really important. Over the past 4 years, our average class size in kindergarten has been about 20. There's a lot of research and studies that support small class size, especially with our earliest learners. I just picked a few. So I know that Mr. Smith has talked a lot about the 19 days of additional learning for our students when they have a growth mindset and our teachers have a growth mindset. Well, we have that. But studies show that class sizes between 13 and 17 students after just their second grade year are 2 months ahead of their counterparts in classes that have roughly 20. So this is a investment that would be a big return in a short amount of time. If you start to think about possibly next year, our learners being in smaller class sizes in K, and then forecast out just a couple years down the road how much further they would be ahead. A couple other stats that I think are important to know. Marlboro currently has 17 students per kindergarten class. East Haddam 18, Portland 16, Hebron 17, and all of those have regular education paraprofessional support.
Do we have regular para support in our classrooms?
Not in all of our classrooms, no.
So what are we projected at in this budget, and what would it bring it to?
So we currently have 6 sections of kindergarten. That's what would be moving forward into next year. The enrollment is, somewhat of a guess at this point. We're projected to be right around what we were this year, between 115, 120, so it would put us at 20 a class again.
Are there links you could provide on the studies that show where classes, smaller class sizes, read better benefits of any?
Sure.
As many as you can.
Sure. Thank you.
And the email goes to me, I'll email it to the whole board. Or you can just email the whole board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm strongly advocating for the addition or restoration of a grade 5 teacher at the Center Elementary School. Currently, our 4th grade class sizes are 26, so that is 26 across the board all day. So there are not different sections, there's no fluctuation at the Center Elementary School level, so it is a difficult task for our teachers. Mr. Gonzalez did a great job talking about the kind of statistical analysis of what happens with those large class sizes. So I want to kind of take a zoomed in view of what happens on a day-to-day. So with our current instructional model, with 26 students in the class, you have a wide range of learners. So if you're looking at an ELA workshop model, that means that you have at least 6 different groups of students that you're grouping together based on similar performance. With that, the hope is you meet with each group of students at least 3 times over the course of a week. And again, with the wide range of learners, we're looking at 6 to 8 groups for that small group instruction and that actionable feedback. Simple reality is that with classes that size, frequency is reduced and therefore equity is diminished. So because of that, sometimes we default back to kind of the whole group instruction to play catch up with some of the small group conversations that we should have had throughout the week. So therefore, if we were to add a section in 5th grade, then we would kind of lighten the burden. And again, that's just on the ELA side. Then we move into the NGSS and some of the experimentation with those high standards. Moving on to our math and moving into a workshop model with that as well. And then in addition, social studies.
Okay, so I need to explain this one a little bit. This is a win-win, as Mary pointed out to me earlier today. The current budget for this upcoming year, the staffing model has it so that one of the middle school PE health teachers would be actually straddling between 2 buildings, between the middle school and the high school. 0.6 at the middle school and 0.4 here at the high school. What I would advocate for is to be able to maintain 3 PE health teachers at the middle school for several reasons. 6th graders PE, they'll only be able to get it twice a week, whereas currently they're able to get it 3 times. Again, it was a sore subject due to the number of study halls And that really was something that we did for a couple reasons. One, they're transitioning from a period in elementary school where they have a recess time, and this third PE allows them to have that additional activity while they transition into middle school. They are receiving a formal physical education component to that, but it's those little bodies are twitching all over the place in 6th grade, so we want to make sure they have that opportunity. Did the math on the study halls for next year, we're looking at about 230,000 collected additional study hall minutes if we do not have that opportunity for them there. This would also minimize class sizes, supports a safe physical education environment, and allows us to increase support and focus on physical and mental health, as we saw as such a big component to this. And I'd have to say that our physical education health department, the team they have right now is extremely strong, and I'm not just saying this because 2 of them are sitting here. They've really done a lot of work and done a fabulous job in the past 2 years, and I'd really like to see that continue to grow.
So the addition of this third teacher would allow for a third day and
allowed to maintain what we currently have, as well as
reduce the size of the classes.
Yes, and maintain the enrichment that they provide during our flex periods right now. Right now, we probably have, would you estimate, 40 to 50 kids that come into flex PE on a daily basis. So then that kind of transitioned into Mr. Verner. Well, the reason why we need to do some of these items is to meet the graduation requirements at the high school, so they require additional course offerings. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Beginning with the class of 2023, our current freshmen, based on state requirements, there is an additional health and wellness component. So every student beginning with this freshman class will need 2 full credits of both health and wellness / physical education. And so we would, based on the current budget cycle, need an increase in health and wellness or PE at the high school to meet those state requirements before these kids graduate. Yes?
So you will be losing staffing to support your need, and that's why you need.
In the current budget, the way it sits, and that's why I would request to just maintain that full year, and perhaps the high school gets another PE health teacher.
Getting back to my question about teachers not being able to teach because of contract limitations, does that during contract negotiations, does that ever come up when teachers could teach during these study hall periods? How does that work?
Right now, we have every teacher teaching to the maximum we can by contract.
By contract.
Now, we can pay them to teach additional sections, but in essence, what you're paying is the equivalent of another teacher.
Okay.
So in other words, I can have another teacher, if I say, I'm gonna have another teacher teach another section of social studies. I'm paying that teacher a portion of a salary. So if we just needed a .2 teacher, well, that's one way to handle it. But I think what you're hearing is we need a full teacher to do what we're required to do now by state legislation, starting with next year, with actually the freshmen that are in our building now.
So unless the contract rules change, you would have to pay someone to teach in what is now just a study hall.
Well, basically, all of our teachers are teaching to the maximum they can by the contract. I'm not sure that even if we open the contract that we would be able to get them to teach more, because our teachers are teaching typically the standard assignment for teachers in Connecticut.
So it's more complicated than just putting someone, okay, you're in a class with 22 kids, teach something, whatever that something might be. It's more complicated than that because of how you explain yourself.
Yes.
So my request is for an additional math teacher at the high school. Currently, we have 5 full-time math teachers. It is the only core academic area. English, science, social studies have 6. So if you walk into our Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 classes, all of our classes are between 21 and 25. And Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 specifically, that is the crux of what students are assessed on in the SAT, which is really where our students, and we want our students to do well to improve over their time in high school. So smaller class sizes will allow for more individualized instruction. And then secondarily, or I think just as important, it allows us to offer not just smaller sections of Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry, but potentially more offerings in financial algebra, which could potentially lead to more business classes, allow more students to get into personal finance or offer more sections of that. Additionally, we currently offer one section of AP statistics, and I would like the opportunity to potentially offer more. Like we have one section, when it's full, it's full. We can't add more students to it. You know, and as I spoke way back in October, one of my visions or goals for the high school is that when every student walks out the door by their graduation, they will have taken one high level or advanced level course, at least some type of college credit before they graduate. And that's one of our full math classes.
So just to make it clear, the 4 positions that the principals have talked about, they are not currently in the budget. But I think it was important for you to hear just a highlight of what's on page 23 to 25 in your budget handout that's not included. I gave them the opportunity just to address one rather than 5 or 6 of those. But if you have any questions next week as to the implication of others, you're welcome to ask the principals. I know they would gladly tell you how important some of those items are. I'm not really giving them that opportunity this evening. So, Mrs. Oakley, we can turn it over to public comment. Our presentation is done at this point.
Okay. Yes, if anybody has any comments or questions. Yes.
I just have one question. When I have a question, comment for like the principal and being our teacher, I'm new to East Hampton. I've been here about 5 years. My son is in kindergarten, and I just started volunteering in the classroom on Thursday. And now that they've added, you know, not special needs, but extra kids to the classroom, and you know, my son has always been like I feel like an on-point kid up to this point. And I go in that classroom and I'm not going to go emotional, but I feel like those kids the teachers are, you know, they're going like, they got 22, 23 kids to look after, and these kids are young. This is when they're supposed to develop interpersonal skills and paying attention, and they're just, I feel like they can't get focused because when they have to deal with another kid or then another kid's acting up, it's like they almost can't concentrate. And when you go from a kid that used to be so focused up to the age of 5, and then they go into a room and I know that's normal as you get older, you know, seeing 20-something kids in class, they should adapt better. I almost feel like it's a disservice to the kindergarten classrooms, probably first, second, or even when you get older. And it's a hard job for the teachers because they can't almost, you know, one kid's all of a sudden behaving that another kid isn't. And it's not just one kid, it's a big classroom, 23 kids is a lot for kindergartners. They're just going into a new school, when everyone's to preschool. I just feel like it's a lot. And it's not like the teachers have enough time to get them all focused. And there's 23 little kids running around. One may have an accident at 5 years old. One may not want to focus, or one may be having an outbreak. And I know when I come home and I used to talk to myself, like, oh, what did you do at school today? I really can't remember. You know, pick out something you liked today. And sometimes he does, and sometimes like, I had a bad day, or, you know, it's just, I feel like that's normal adjustment, but I feel like they do need either another teacher, they do need less kids. And 23 for a 5-year-old, I feel like is a lot for them to accomplish. I feel like some kids get more tools than other kids, and some kids don't. Or they get hindsight because the teacher has to pay attention to more of the kids that aren't behaving. And if I knew like all the teachers then, I maybe would have been able to request what I thought would like a better teacher because I feel like my kid needed this, and I feel like it's just a whirlwind for me as being a mom, you know, or being in that room sometimes. And I'm trying to help the teacher, and I'm like, he goes by so fast, I'm like, I don't know if she does it all. So we're like 8 kids, I'm like, I don't know how, you know, she does it all in a small period of time. But that's all, I'm not like here to like stand there and saying what I see, and then my son coming home, he's like done for the day. But, so he learns stuff though, I can't say he doesn't because they have a good approach that they all work here. I'm just saying that I think it's a lot.
Thank you.
Can I have a follow-up question or a question?
Typically in public comment, it's just an opportunity for.
Positive comment,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
2 questions. Will the industrial pipeline idea be introduced to the 8th graders this coming week?
We're putting the opportunity in our program of studies, and we'll be communicating it to families, yes. But it's primarily an opportunity for students once they get into high school. There's a couple of prerequisites.
But next week you're having high school, middle school.
Yeah, absolutely, and it will be in the program of studies. It will be listed in the program of studies as pending BOE approval, because right now we're seeking funding sources to pay for the startup costs and the tuition for students, because none of those are in the budget as well.
Another question, please. Okay, the remote learning for the Chinese, great idea. Are there other courses in the high school now that are done remotely?
We have the opportunity for students who are doing credit recovery to take online courses, and we do offer for students who may need a course that we don't offer, yes, in limited fashion. Because right now through virtual high school, it's about $500 per semester per course. We have allowed families to purchase a seat if they want, and then we count the credit.
Okay, I'm just thinking of some of the AP courses or some of the smaller courses that just a handful of kids are in, maybe 7 or 8. Could that be done online in cooperation with another high school, RAM or Portland or?
Yeah, it's difficult to try to do a course with everybody at the same time because everybody's schedules are different. What's nice about the online courses is that the way they're done, it's not time dependent for many of them. So you log in and you do it. We would give the students who would take Chinese, for example, or an additional online course, we would give them an opportunity during the school day, during the school period to work on it, and then they would obviously work on it at home as well. With the agreement with CEA is pretty clear that we do it for courses that we don't offer in the building. So we're not going to open online opportunities in French and Spanish because we offer those. So we're not trying to replace teachers with that. Plus, most of some of our AP courses are smaller, but by the time you pay for a full year enrollment, you're not saving that much by having 7 to 10 students do an online course. It also, in addition to that many students doing online courses, you've got to have someone supervise the material that comes in from the online teacher and the weekly reports and everything like that. So we're starting out in a limited capacity with just the language and a few other courses.
All right, just as long as, I think it's a great idea, and I think it has great.
Oh, absolutely. For example, if a student wanted to take Arabic instead of Chinese, they could do online Arabic as well. But we're limiting it to the courses that we don't offer. I don't want to spend money on a seat where a student could take that during the school day.
For those who don't know us, we are kindergarten teachers here at Memorial School. I'm Meg Ritzak, and this is my teammate, Gary Evans. And so first we're here tonight to express our appreciation and opportunity to teach here in East Hampton with amazing teammates, families, and the learners in our classrooms. We are so grateful for the programs and curriculum resources that our students have access to. So we'd just like to take a moment tonight to advocate for the additional kindergarten teacher that Mr. Gonzalez had recently spoke about. Over the last 5 years, our average class size in kindergarten has been 20 students or higher. For many of our students, kindergarten is their first time to be exposed to the school setting, providing them with a wealth of new social, emotional, and academic experiences. We feel that one of our most important responsibilities is to build and develop personal relationships while providing them with a safe and nurturing place to learn. While Second Step is a helpful program to boost our learners' social skills, higher class sizes make it difficult for us to target and meet the social and emotional needs of all 4, 5, and 6-year-olds in our classroom communities. We're fortunate to be able to implement the workshop model in our K classrooms and have seen it firsthand of how beneficial it is for our learners. With that being said, we do our best to tailor instruction to meet the diverse needs of all our students. On a daily basis, we need to differentiate instruction, and this requires a complex balance of whole group, small group, and one-to-one instruction. Smaller class sizes would maximize learning opportunities to ensure we are providing high-quality learning experiences for our youngest learners. So, in closing, while our kindergartners learn to navigate and establish themselves as new Memorial students, we feel smaller class sizes will benefit the learner as a whole. Thanks for your time and attention.
Yes.
I have 2 quick things. I'm a mom of 3, and I'm also a Girl Scout leader. I have 2 other leaders in my troop, and we have 12 first and kindergarten students. At the end of that 1-hour meeting, our heads are spinning. It's all we can do to keep up with those 12 girls, and there's 3 of us. So I can't even imagine how our kindergarten teachers are keeping up with 20 or more kids at times. It's crazy to have to deal with that many children at one time, just to be one of them. Most of them don't have parents in their class. So I am an advocate for increasing the teaching position for the kindergarten. And also for the high school, for the Vandenberg class, I've worked with companies who work with a lot of manufacturers in China. And that skill and having that second language is a very, very valuable asset to our students. So I think that's a great opportunity that we could offer them.
Yes.
I'm also here to speak about class sizes. I have a kindergartner, and his teacher she works miracles. However, with that said, there's 21 children, and you only can be in so many places at so many times. And then let's think about the teachers. We have such talent in this district. Well, you can go to Marlboro, and you can have 17 kids, and you can have a dedicated parent. Eventually, somebody's going to break, because it's too much. We're expecting too much. And I think that we're talking about kindergarten, and I'm so happy to hear that we're talking about a kindergarten position, but I think it would be very beneficial for parents to know targeted class sizes for this budget that they're voting on. Because I think that parents are more likely to turn out to see smaller class sizes, and it's an important piece that I don't see in this presentation that we talk about, and that's where all the passion comes, because there is just a need for all this individualized attention.
Anybody else? Yes. Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'm Regina Zalbobi. I'm a team leader for language here at the high school. I've been here quite a long time, and one of the things I've always wanted was a strong world language program, but yet it keeps getting cut because of budget. So when we lost the last teacher at the middle school, which affected their program and gave them so many study halls, it also caused our class sizes to go up because we lost Mrs. Menino's position of care, which helped with the class sizes. So I'm really, really strongly advocate for putting the program back at the middle school and then hopefully moving it down to the elementary schools at some point, hopefully.
Thank you. Yes.
And just taking a look at the Board of Education, this presentation on page 2 as well as page 22, I think it's really important to emphasize that the enrollment in October 2019 shows 1,900 students in public school system compared to 2014, which was 1,956. We decreased enrollment by about 50 students, yet we have 8 less teachers. And I think that right there should be a motivator for the Board of Ed to go ahead and add a couple, restore some positions out there. Because when we talk about teachers are doing more with less, we really are doing much more with less. And that hurts not only the students, but also our programming as well. So I just wanted to point that out first and foremost, and also say that I am an advocate for, especially the larger class sizes coming from the middle school into the high school, restoring the math teacher for the high school program. And I'm also an advocate for some break wins, such as at the middle school, to instill some of the clubs. It's so important for those who may not be able to participate in sports, participate in gaming and board games and fitness club after school. I mean, those are quick wins for students to be able to engage and socialize in our community.
And I did have one quick question. The AP textbooks that we're looking to update, are those physical or online?
We have an option to get them online or hard copies. We probably will get hard copies in this case. With the online, when you purchase the hard copy as well, you can get a class set worth, and then there's online licenses that come with them.
And then I just wanted to make a comment for the Board of Ed. Being in this process for so many years and many lessons learned, one of the things I highly encourage the Board of Ed to do proactively is to activate more creative communications. And what I mean by that is, I can't tell you how many times just being in this process that there is such concern about misinformation being communicated to the public in public forums. And I hate to say this, but it is coming from other board members, not necessarily from the Board of Ed, but from other board members, and it's then the truth. And I would hope and encourage that the Board of Ed go and represent themselves, whether it be the referees, the attendees of the Board of Finance, or town council meetings, to be able to squash these rumors and find creative solutions. Because unfortunately, when this is communicated out, again, it's turned into fact. And then the other thing that I wanted to quickly address was, I understand that students fall on opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to learning. So you'll have students that will go off to college, who are college bound, and some who would pursue a trade. So with the opportunity, the partnership with RAM on the manufacturing opportunities, I would hope that the Board of Ed, again, be proactive in some of the communication out to the community to say, we are addressing all different types of students and all different types of learning. Again, being creative, using newspapers, social media, and other aspects to be able to communicate that, because you will have advocates such as myself to be able to share that and communicate that with others, rather than having it come from other members of the community who will falsify information. So.
Thank you. Anything else? No more comments? Okay. So what do we have?
A quick policy
Oh,
update.
yes.
So
Right.
board members, your spot is especially for our new members, and I know two of our new members are on the policy committee, but just to give you a sense of our policy procedure, I've given you policies that have been done in the last 4 years, and what our procedure is for review and second read, et cetera. So if you have any questions, Amy, you're the only new member who's not on policy, so I won't take up a lot of time with this tonight, but if you have questions, let me know. The other thing at your place, oh, I'm sorry.
You're talking about this stuff.
I am.
I'm just curious as to why the policy on gender identity expression was tabled.
The board did not feel like they wanted to address that item. That was...
Will it be being revisited? Because I know there's some data around some mental health concerns.
Yeah, that did not, well, you're right. I mean, the policy itself did not address mental health concerns.
No, I'm saying if
Correct.
people are, like, it could lead to mental health concerns.
If you turn to January 14th, 2019, it was tabled once again by the Board of Ed. So in future business, if there's interest, I'd ask that you express it during future interest. We can bring it to the policy subcommittee at that point. But I would want a board consensus that you'd want policy to look at it for a third time.
Like, I don't think I have access to the policy. Like, can I look at it somewhere?
I'll email you a copy of the policy.
Okay.
And Paul, just to pick up, there's check marks and X's on other items on the CAPE column?
Yeah, so we publish all of our policies on the CAPE website. They host our policies for us. And I just do that as a check and balance to let you know that it is now up on the website. Anything that has a red X is because it was tabled or it was something that we omitted.
I'm seeing, equity and diversity also, like it's a little concerning. I don't know, it's just like, I would have to look at the policy to know.
I will send you the policies that were not moved forward.
It seems like both of those things there's some overlap there, and it's, I don't know if there's current concern.
Me as well.
I'll include the whole board in those, so you can take a look at what was. And it may be a little old now because they were the gender and expression would be newer because that was January 14th, 2019, just a year ago. The other one I think is from 2016, so it's going to read older than perhaps. But if there's an interest in updating. We just want a consensus at this point to look at.
I don't it's not based on any current concerns of people complaining, but you don't want to wait.
Well, to be candid with you, none of them express things that aren't in legislature already. And legislation is always going to trump policy.
So we weren't setting any new ground?
No, you weren't setting any new ground. It was just putting into board policy certain things that were already in legislation.
Was it a key recommendation to take up those policies?
I know it was years ago now.
Yes.
It was.
They were not required. Anything that's required to be in policy, you have in policy. So it was not a required board policy. It was just a policy to consider.
Okay.
And CABE will make that clear to us when they send us updates that you must have a policy. There is legislation that says you have to have certain policies. There's others that they'll say it's good practice to have these policies. Okay. And then the other item at your place is policy 9221, which I've shared a couple times with you. We're going to want to make sure that you follow it at your February 10th meeting when we do interviews for the new Board of Education member. I have followed everything that's on here up to this point. All applications were due today by noon. If you look at the schedule that I gave you, we actually have 5 candidates. So let me give you choice number 1. You can do an interview at 5:50, which will finish at approximately 6:05. That doesn't, I'm sorry, no, it's 6:05, you can do another one that'll finish at 6:20. Gives you very little time to discuss the candidates. So what I would suggest is that Rosemarie put in the agenda an executive session to happen at the end of the meeting. Then you come out of that executive session and appoint the board member using the language that's on that sheet. So I'm not sure you'd have time to adequately discuss the 5 candidates. And the other option is to start before 5 o'clock.
Do we know how many people think that they can make it at 5 o'clock? I personally think leaving it at 5 is probably early enough for most people.
For me, if I can make it at 5, I can make it at 4:45. I'm leaving work early either way. So, leaving a little earlier isn't going to make that much of a difference, but that's me individually.
Well, let's just say if it's 5 o'clock. Does everybody know whether you can make it or not? Yes? Yeah. Oh, good.
So let's
good, because the more...
We'll be in the back, the main office conference room. You'll go right into executive session. These interviews can be done in executive session. And we'll finish at 6:20. You can do a straw poll to see if you have a candidate. Otherwise, we'll go back into executive session at the meeting. We'll put in the agenda possible executive session. It allows you to go into executive session. You come out of executive session, and then you don't have to vote in open session. You just have to appoint your candidate in open session.
By what time?
By what time? You would just do that at the end of the meeting.
At the end of our regular meeting.
At the end of the regular meeting. So the end of,
Okay.
so at the end of the regular meeting, well, it wouldn't be the end of the meeting, you would just pause the meeting to go into executive session, which you're allowed to do. You come out of executive session, you appoint, and then the regular meeting ends.
Right. But we have to,
You have to appoint in,
we have to find consensus at some point that night before.
if you don't, then you run the risk of going past 30 days and the town council can appoint.
Right. But we could be here until.
We just need to work together.
Right, exactly.
We will
I'm not
have to find
expecting
a
that that's going to
consensus.
happen, but I didn't know if it had to be at, some certain hour.
No, we can be here till midnight if you want.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody would enjoy that.
Just a quick question about the procedure. Are we going to get the applications and questions?
Yes,
beforehand?
what I'll do is probably by the end of this week, I'll have Rosemary send the letters and the resumes to you to review. And Nancy and I will select about 3 questions to ask each candidate. Keep in mind, I'm going to play knock on the door, so I'll greet the candidate when they come in, bring them to you, then I'll greet the next candidate, and at 14 and a half minutes, I'm going to give you your 30-second warning.
Okay.
All right? And that is it for the superintendent's report. We do not have any program presentation tonight.
We have it. We have it. Okay, and now we have policy.
We do.
Yes.
So we have second read on policy 9000, which is the rural board and its members. As part of this is all, the 9000 series is all bylaws of the board. So it's what we do and how we do it. I wasn't here when we did the first read on this. Did we go through it? I mean, there's...
We did, and we were supposed to, we didn't have we made a mistake publishing the agenda. So this last meeting was just a budget workshop. We did not vote for second read. So this has been sitting in your agenda for about a month and a half at this point.
Okay. Well, this being second read then, I guess, do we need to make a motion before we discuss it?
Yes, would somebody like to make a motion? Motion.
Motion to approve recommended policy 9000, roll board and its members and board-related responsibilities.
Now you can have discussion.
Discussion?
I just have one question, and maybe it's very likely I'm wordsmithing this too much, and it's maybe not all that meaningful, but number 5, to employ a superintendent, this is what, I'm suggesting you change this, to employ a superintendent who will lead the district, comma, maintain outstanding educational programs and ensure that school personnel implement the policies of the board. I think I don't know, if there's an English language teacher here who can tell me what adding the ing does, but it just, having those 2 ings at the end of each of those words.
I think it's not a list, is it?
Sounds.
I think it's not meant to be a list, that's why. It depends on how you read it, I guess.
Yeah.
Who will lead the district by maintaining and ensuring, that's the intent of it, rather than making a...
Lead the district, maintaining.
By maintaining outstanding educational program and ensuring. That would work.
I think it's a qualifier of leading the
Yes.
district.
Yeah.
So would you like to add the word by?
By would work.
Unless you want it to read like a list.
Either way, the way it's written right now, it just sounds off to me.
By.
See, I missed the career option.
Anything else on that?
I think it's true.
I'm glad you read it.
Yeah. But with
I
that,
read it about 5 times.
and with that change, we can vote on that?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, no more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. All right, now, more policy.
Yes, more policy. These are first
First
read.
reads.
Hope you mind it. I have to
Oh, yeah, no problem at all. So you, as we go through the policies, if we don't make any changes to a policy 9,000, we're not bringing that to you. You'll see it listed as no changes. But there were ones that we made minor changes to. You'll see that we have 4 policies, but you have 5 sheets of paper. What we're doing is we're going to omit the last one, 9110, because it's redundant based on 9100. I've highlighted in yellow the portion of 9100 that makes 9110 redundant. So these are 4 first reads, and what I'm recommending is that you omit as it says in 11.4, policy 9110, and I didn't want to omit it without showing you where it's covered in another policy.
I had a question on 9010, limits of authority. The blue, is this just, did this come from some English language, or is this something that just worked together to produce?
No, we actually took it from another policy that we examined, because I thought the first sentence was very weak.
The one that's stricken?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was going to say the first sentence here, I read it many times, and I think it could be just me, but...
And that should be the word unit, that's not...
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I did not figure it out.
It should not be the word,
Unit.
There should not be a Y there, it's the unit.
The unit, okay. It's
Sorry
the
about
unit
that.
of authority. Apart from there. Okay, thank you. Perfectly clear. Okay.
I have a question about policy 9100, about term limits. Where did the term limits for the board come from? Because it's my understanding that we're the only elected board in town that has term limits. I'm just wondering, is that for our
I believe
town
that's in the
charter?
town
It's in the
charter.
charter. Yeah. Any other questions for the first reads? Future business. Anything that we need to add?
I'm sorry.
Future business is next. I think we'll be busy the next
Yeah.
meeting, so I
Jim.
don't know if we're adding anything.
I actually have a couple things
Yeah.
too.
Okay.
I'm just switching hats here for a second. The Library Advisory Board has asked for a representative for the Board of Education to join us in our strategic planning. The dates that we are looking for a Board of Education volunteer are Sunday, February 23rd from 1 to 5, and then a follow-up meeting on Sunday, March 8th from 1 to 5. And if possible, if it could be the same person, because we're going to be exploring some ideas in the first meeting and then working forward with those in the second. So if you can get back to me or Ellen
I'll put that
Paul,
out as a reminder in the highlights that I send to board members on
that would be
Fridays.
great, because we would really like your input. So.
I would be interested. I just check.
Oh, good. Thank
Calendar.
you, Nancy. That would be great.
Thank you. Did you have something?
Yes,
Tim?
this is the high school and middle school. Is there, if the principal's doing a presentation on high honors and honors, what constitutes criteria to make sure that'd be fantastic. If everybody would appreciate that, we all learn something that could be on the agenda for some point in the future.
Before we do that, is there consensus among the board that you'd like that?
That would be useful.
Okay. Give us till the first meeting in March, if you would.
Sure.
They'll come with other options.
I also have 2 more.
You have anything
Sorry.
more?
Yes.
Can I jump in front of you?
Yeah, go right ahead.
No, I'm done.
Oh, that's fine, Jim. I was just wondering if there was an update on our request for the town hall tour.
I don't have a date yet.
Okay.
I'm trying to work with, I didn't, because it would be at 5 o'clock, I wanted,
Sure.
I know they just don't let us in. You've got to go with either one of the models or with the town manager. So I just asked him to come up with a couple possible dates for us.
And then kind of keeping with that, I know that we're kind of, the Board of Education building is starting to get geared up for packing and moving. And I was wondering if it was possible, because it's my understanding that we are going to have to rent storage space because the town hall can't accommodate some of our records. Is it possible to get kind of like a informal cost analysis about what we're paying now versus, I know they haven't determined what they're going to charge us for rent, but at least to start looking at that to see if there is going to be additional.
Right, so it will be less storage of records. It will be storage of the garage that's in back of our building. And I can give you a tour of that anytime you just open the garage door and look. Some of the stuff we will need to dispose of, but some of the stuff, all the graduation platforms and everything we use for graduation, we are going to pay for storage, rental, some rental unit in town to store that. There is recreation material in there as well. Jeremy keeps stuff in that garage. He knows that they need to start looking for their own rental unit as well.
I just would like to have some kind of, as we're going into that, some kind of dollar amount that
we'll give you that.
Okay, approximately what that's going to be.
Why can't we use the garage anymore?
Well, we'll be turning over the building to the town. 94 Main will become whatever the town wishes to do with it. I've told the town manager we will be out by May 1 and we'll be out of the garage by July 1.
I'm just wondering, like, as much as the town council wants to save money and, cut costs and it would seem that maybe they could, if they don't have rather than, well, what are we going to do with this garage, let you continue to use.
Well, I think when they don't know what they're doing with the building, but there's no option in which we get to keep a portion of it right now. So that garage, if they sell the building and the land, that garage goes with it at this point. It may be worth more than the building. I don't know. It's a nice big garage.
Is that the red building?
No, it's directly in back.
Okay.
Drive past our building and you'll notice that, wow, there's a really big garage in the back.
All right. And then I know it's late, but I just have one more thing. I was wondering if there was an update on the joint facilities position that's being proposed.
So there's only preliminary talk at this point, and it's been going on for a number of years, but the town manager requested someone to oversee town facilities. That position has been tabled by the town council because there is interest in perhaps taking Don Harwood's position, our director of facilities and operation, and making that, expanding that role to cover all town facilities and operations, and possibly hiring someone underneath as an assistant.
And if it's okay, there's consensus with the board. I would really like for a board representative to accompany you maybe to the next discussions, seeing as that it directly involves a Board of Education employee and the fact that it's going to impact what happens in our buildings. We're looking at possibly a new roof project in the middle school in the next couple of years. I just want to make sure that we're equally represented in that discussion and that we have a place at the table.
I'd be glad to.
Thank you.
Anybody else? And we do have another audience of citizens. Right, even though we've had 2 audiences, now we have another. Anybody? No? Okay. All right, with that, I believe we are ready to adjourn. If there's a motion.
So moved.
Second. all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Wait.